Well, hello, Mr. Yankah. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for joining us and giving us a bit of your time this afternoon, early evening, your time in the Ghanaian capital, Accra. Well, I understand on November 7th, there's a big musical concert being organized by the Pan African Heritage Museum. As the leader, the head of the Pan African, who originated the idea of the Pan African Heritage Museum, briefly talk to me about this coming mega concert.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Yes, 7th of November or November 7th is going to be one of the biggest fundraising shows we are putting up in Ghana. We did one couple of years back, but that was at the Kempinski Hotel. But this time we have a bigger space, a much bigger space at the Accra International Conference Center, courtesy of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we are going to mount a fundraising concert that's going to involve three of the best iconic musicians that we have in Ghana. Rocky Dawini is well known. He is a four times Grammy Award nominee, and he is also a UNESCO ambassador for the environment. And he's traveled worldwide with his music. He's known more for Afro rock music, and he is leading the pack. Next to him is Jeduble Ambole, a Ghanaian, also iconic for his high life jazz reputation. He has just completed a 21 state tour of the US, and he's back home and he's joining in the concert. And then we have the local musician they call the rap doctor, Chiame Kwame, who is also performing at the concert. These are the headline musicians. There are other ones who are much smaller in scale, but that tells you the size of the concert that we are putting
Hmm.
up. I must say, this at the conference center, as you probably know or might have heard, conference center is the biggest venue you can have in Accra at the moment, apart from the Accra Sports Stadium. And so we are expecting as many people as possible to be there for the
Now,
concert.
talking about the concert, I understand that globally and particularly across Africa, people are very interested in the Pan African Heritage Museum. Briefly talk to me about this, how the concept came about, and where the project is currently.
Yes, the project has traveled a couple of years because in 2020, our former head of state, President Akufo-Addo, launched the project online. We launched it online not because there was COVID, but we also wanted international attention. And I remember about 5,000 participants came on air to see the launch of the museum. Why it became so popular and why it is still popular is that it's a different kind of museum. You know, Africa doesn't have too many museums, only about 300 on the continent as a whole. And we in Africa have not had the culture of museum being too popular. Being too popular in the sense that most of the museums that one can see on the continent are historically related, and other the slave dungeons in Cape Coast, or those in Senegal, or in the Gambia, or in Nigeria. And then you have the uh, art items that are coming up. We have the Museum of Black Civilization also in Senegal, and they are all telling a very, I would say, narrow but specific stories about the continent and the community in which they have grown. We have taken it on a broader scale. If you look at the Museum of African American Culture in Washington, D.C., it tells more about the story of blacks arriving in America and their life since then, their history, their culture, and their story. What we are doing in Ghana is that we have also suffered the fate of not knowing much about our own continent, let alone to let our children know about uh, the kith and kin who left us through the slave trade and all that. So why this museum is unique is that it tells the story of the African from early stages, from the beginning of mankind. I don't think there is any dispute now that civilization began in Africa, which we did not know before, and we had our kings and queens and kingdoms. We had our own civilization. We were interrupted along the line by the Greeks. We then were interrupted by the Romans. Were interrupted by Arabs, and a lot of struggles went through. Now, all these stories are not known to us in total because a lot of um, a lot of stories uh, told us were those of the Europeans and the North Americans and so on that we interacted with in our history. So most people know more about Europe than about the continent. It is no doubt that a lot of Africans want to travel to Europe instead of looking inwardly. So our story is the story of the humanity, the civilization of Africa, what we had before, the kingdoms that sprang up, the interruptions that we had, but more important to that, the resistance. You see, our resistance history is not told. We resisted slave trade. Sometimes one gets the impression that it was just a giveaway. But there are so many stories now that have been published about the resistance, and even those that were taken away on various slave ships and boats. The resistance that went on is monumental, and a lot more books have been written, a lot more details are available. And then going to the various plantations, whether it is in Jamestown, in Virginia, or in Haiti, or in the Caribbean, was a lot of resistance by Africans, and some of them led revolts and rebellions, which are not told us in detail. So all these stories are coming into our museum, and up to the point that our people started organizing themselves into um, Pan-Africanist congresses. It was Sylvester in the UK, some conference in Paris, London, and then eventually in Manchester in 1945, where W.B. Du Bois and other leaders resolved that the suppression of the African was was now time to end it, and we know historically that Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Awolowo, and some of the Hastings Banda of Malawi were some of the African leaders who were at that Manchester conference. And soon after that conference, they all moved into Africa and led their nations into independence. These are stories not known by a number of Africans. And then, of course, on the other side, soon after that conference, you saw a lot of the black civil rights movement. And again, we on the continent have never been taught that kind of story. So it's like we are in Africa, we had our kith and kin taken away, we do not know much about them, we do not know about how they struggled. And then suddenly here we are talking about year of return, we are talking about people of Africa, African descent, wanting to come back to Africa without any knowledge about the history, first amongst themselves, and then, of course, about Africa. So that's the uniqueness of this museum, which has attracted so much attention throughout the world.
So, Mr. Yankah, what do you think is the major attraction to this Pan African Heritage Museum and its significance and its anticipated impact, not only on Ghana, but Africa and the world at large?
Right. The point is, you touched on it in your question, the question of heritage. What do we have that binds us together? What do we have that we've not been told? We've not been told our real history. We've not been told that Africa was the mother of mankind. We've not been taught, even if we are reading it now, we've not been taught the details. We've not been taught what the kingdoms were for. All that we know is that some kingdoms rose up and fell. Everybody talks about Mansa Musa, but what is the extreme details of Mansa Musa and his kingdom and all that? So the importance of this is that we are now going back to learn about our history, our culture, our arts, our sciences, and the most important, our achievements, which have been hidden from us. Um, and that is where I believe the attraction is going to be, because all through my errands and travels around the world, the interest has been on the heritage. So we have all this, the history. Why were we not taught? Why were we not given full details of this particular incident? Why were Africans or people of African descent involved in a lot of inventions, discoveries, and so on, but they are never mentioned, even in America, even in Brazil, in Colombia. And I've traveled throughout all these kingdoms, or all these countries, and they are all excited to know that there's going to be one place where you can go and read about the arts, culture, the history, the achievements, and the pride that we should have come to people of African descent. You know, our three major props are educate, heal, and inspire. We want to educate ourselves. Anybody who goes into that museum is going to get a lot of education. Then there's going to be healing. You know, a lot of lies have been told about our relationship with ourselves. You know, so the cracks that you find in Africa, among African countries, because we do not know that in 1884, we were just sliced up like a pizza and given different languages to speak and different countries to live on. So all these difficulties, all these challenges, we must know the historical detail. And then, of course, those who left our shores. I mean, there was miseducation of people of African descent wherever they have been, whether it's in America or in Brazil or in Colombia or in the Caribbean. And it's time to now heal together that we were one people. And then, most important, at the end of the day, when you've known a lot about the achievements of your own people, you've met people that you have healed together, then you inspire each other. The future generation, therefore, is going to be inspired by what they learn going through this museum. It's a very unique experiment, and we think that at the end of the day, it's going to be the kind of a center of pilgrimage for people of African descent to visit every year, every now and then, to learn about themselves and be proud. And once that is done, you can bet that me and you will testify that humanity is getting better, because you have one side of the world that has been denied history about themselves, and it's only one side of the world which is dictating. Once we get to know who we are, the pride will come back, no superiority will be tolerated, and we'll live as human beings from the same creator.
Before we go, Mr. Yankah, for those who have heard about this, the attraction the Pan African Heritage Museum attract, if they want to sponsor, they want to help fund the project, where do they go? What do they do?
Yeah, good question. We have built a very robust website, pahmuseum.org, and for the past 3 years, excuse me, that's where we've concentrated a lot of the donations that we have received. We have built our virtual museum, probably one of the first in the world, that tells the story I've just told you. We have not totally completed, because we are still filling in with contemporary Africa in various parts of the world. But on our website, www.pah museum.org, has all the buttons that you can go on to tell you where to donate. We have banks in America, we have banks in the UK, we have banks in Ghana where people are donating through. So we are expecting that those who cannot even attend our physical fundraising programs can go to our website and donate from there. So we've reached a point where now the physical museum is going to be built, and that's why we need the support of everybody who is listening to us or going to our website.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yankah. We appreciate your efforts, and we look forward to having more of this conversation to raise more awareness for this Pan-African, very important Pan-African Heritage Museum. Thank you very much for giving us a bit of your time today.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.